What's up, Rooster Nation? I'm back. Today I want to talk about a lot of the unique challenges that have presented themselves by being in the frozen aisle. So, I was at the Chobani Incubator Happy Hour last night. An event put on by the incubator to bring applicants together, ask questions. And I was chatting with a lot of familiar faces, a couple whom are in the beverage category. And they were talking about how they're all going after the cold box, right? The refrigerated area of the store where you're in Whole Foods, you want a cold beverage for lunch. That's the cold box. Grab a cold beverage. And they were talking about how huge that is to drive sales, right? That if you're just in the beverage aisle where it's non-refrigerated, there's a million other beverages, it's very hard to take off. And when you're in the cold box, it's like night and day. That reminds me of my time selling wine at Gallo. It was all about getting in the cold box. If my boss was in my account or my boss's boss was in the account, they always wanted to see the cold box to see how many Gallo wines were in there because they knew how important it was to building velocities and building the brand. And it was like night and day. You could easily sell a couple cases a week out of the cold box for a popular wine in a busy store because that's where people are going when they want a cold beverage after work, to bring home to the family with dinner. So they were talking about these beverages, and actually at the Chobani Incubator, talking about how they're all after the cold box. And it made me think about all the opportunities that are in the store for brands that are refrigerated or shelf stable that are not available to frozen. And that's kind of the unique challenge. So I mentioned the cold box, but there's a lot of other opportunities for shelf stable and refrigerated brands to build brand awareness and drive market share in the grocery store and drive trial. A couple of those things are, that come to mind. The first is a case stack, for beverages or chips. With chips in a case, you stack up 3 cases, cut the top, you give yourself a nice little display in the aisle of your brand. And that's a great way to get consumers to try it because they're walking down the aisle. Your product stands out amongst all the shelves because it's right there on the floor, a little case stack. Point of purchase displays, right? You're at the register if you're a little candy or a little bar or, a little, whatever, cosmetic product. You can make a little shoppable cardboard thing that stands right at the register. And that's another great way to drive trial, drive brand awareness, and get people to recognize your brand. Couple other opportunities, shippers, right? These cardboard displays that stand in the middle of the aisle with your branding, your graphics, and your product on it. And people shop right out of the display. I think it was King Soopers, and there was a beautiful Birch Benders display right in the middle of the aisle. The people who designed their packaging also designed mine, and it looked great. It's a great way for people to discover Birch Benders, maybe switch up their pancake brand, at least try it. And they might not have seen it before without that shipper. Can't do that for frozen, right? There's no frozen shipper because the product needs to be frozen. The other things are there's a cold box for all those refrigerated products like I was talking about, all the beverages, even some bars now. A lot of people trying to get into the cold box where you're on the perimeter of the store. There's high visibility because most shoppers walk the perimeter of the store. Most of the shopping's done there. And there's no barrier, right? It's an open, shoppable, refrigerated cooler that provides great visibility for products that are refrigerated. Now, there's a trade-off, right? They deal with short shelf lives, but in terms of marketing your product, great spot to be, perimeter refrigerated cold box, because that's where people are going to grab something quick and is great visibility for your product. The final thing is really end caps, right? Let's say the average grocery store is, 15 aisles, 2 end caps per aisle. That's like at least 30 end caps for shelf-stable goods. And there's much more opportunity for you to get on an end cap if you're shelf-stable, just because there's more end caps. They can push all the national brands and then save room for the regional brands. The unique challenge in frozen that, I'm aware of, but it just reminded me talking to these beverage guys, is that we have absolutely none of these opportunities to display or market in the store, right? If you're lucky, you'll have 1 to 2 frozen end caps in a grocery store. A lot of stores have 0 frozen end caps. And those end caps are reserved for the big brands, right? They're reserved for the lean cuisines and the Halo Tops and the Ben & Jerry's and the Alexa potatoes. They're not putting little Rooster Lark on the end cap. It's not even eligible to me, right? I've gone to the regions of Whole Foods I'm in. I'm saying, hey, do you have any opportunities for Rooster Lark to be on the end caps and frozen? And they say, no, not really. Those are reserved for national brands. And that's not like the region being mean. That's the company policy. So for me, if you're in the you're trying to launch an item in the frozen section, you only have your shelf position and your packaging. And that is it. There's no other display opportunities to promote your brand in the store, and that is a unique challenge to Frozen and Frozen alone. Not to mention, you're behind that glass door, which is a huge barrier, right? As you're walking the aisle, the frozen aisle, it's harder to discover products when they're behind a door. The door could be frosted. All the grocery stores hang secondary things on the thing, to sell, syrup or whatever. They stick them to the door. They merchandise other products there. They put signs and shelf talkers, and all of that can obscure the view of your product. So what are you to do? What's a Rooster to do? Again, I've talked about this before. That's why I'm doing all these other marketing programs. That's why I'm trying to build a robust digital marketing program that includes retargeting and press and, the podcast and the LinkedIn and the YouTube and the TikTok, because I got to do something else. I have no other marketing opportunities in the store. The only other thing you can do is put the product on sale. And I did that. I promoted aggressively in 2018, 2019. I promoted every other month, 20% off. That is insane. That's an insane promotion schedule. That's like what frozen pizza does. And it did not lead to month-over-month growth. I've talked about that before. That plan was a failure. What have I learned? You cannot promote your way to success. You cannot build a brand from the ground up through trade promotions alone. And I just wanted to use this opportunity to reiterate the extremely unique challenges that are present in the frozen aisle. Because even if I was flush with cash, which I'm not, there is no opportunity for me to display in store, right? The end caps are off limits, no case stacks, no shippers, simply because you have to keep the product cold. So all these other brands, I'm not saying it's easy for them. Believe me, they're fighting the good fight just like I am. They're trying to build their brand. But they have more tools available to them in the store, right, where shoppers are purchasing their items. They have the opportunity to do case stacks and shippers and point of purchase displays. And for frozen items, that's off limits. It just doesn't exist. You can't do it because you got to keep the item frozen. So that's all I'm talking about today. I'm reiterating the unique challenges that are in the frozen aisle. And, Rooster Nation, stand with me, stay strong. We're doing a lot of things to market, to build this brand. And I just, am reiterating that it's a challenge. It's an uphill battle, and it's a very unique challenge to the frozen aisle. And there's no easy answer. So, Rooster Nation, stay with us. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep driving it home. And, before long, I really hope and I really believe that we're going to make this brand blow up. So that's all I got. Pitch Slam coming up, week and a half. Stay with us. We got a bunch of Pitch Slam related content coming at you. And hopefully we'll see you next week at the Pitch Slam. All right, Rooster Nation, take it easy. We'll see you.